Deputy Mayor Trentowski, are you able to hear me tonight?
Nicholas, can you do a sound check for us, please?
Deputy Mayor Trentowski, are you able to hear me?
Maybe crank it up a little bit more, Nicholas, so we can hear you, but just very quietly.
Well, I could speak up a little bit more as well too.
There you go. Is it snowing out there yet?
No, it's still light, but there is snow on top of the mountains.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Deputy Mayor Dean Trentowski. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01, welcoming fellow councillors, staff, guests, and members of the public that might be tuning in live stream. Before we start the meeting, I'd ask everyone to take a moment, bow your heads for a moment of reflection, please. Thank you. I want to advise the rest of council that Mayor McKenzie and CAO Bordar are away on municipal business this evening. I will be chairing the meeting, and Councillor Vink is joining us remotely from sunny southern Alberta. So, item number 2 on our agenda is confirmation of the agenda. I'll ask the clerk if there's been any last minute revisions to our agenda.
There have not, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So item 2.1, I will ask for an acceptance of the agenda. Recommendation that the council of the municipality of West Perth accept the agenda as presented. Councillor Rose moves, seconder. Councillor Chessel, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any disclosures to be made at this time? Councillor Duck.
I have pecuniary interest on 8.3 for tonight, so I'll be just excusing myself for that.
Item 8.3, that will be the presentation by Councillor Vink on the 2024 West Perth salary and benefit budget update. So thank you, Councillor Duck. At that time, we'll ask you to please excuse yourself from the chamber during that discussion. Anybody else? Seeing none, if the need should arise at any time later on in the meeting, please indicate to the chair that you're in a, you need to disclose your pecuniary interest at that time. Okay, item 4, consent agenda. 15 items on the consent agenda. Was there anything there that anyone from council wishes to pull for further discussion or clarification? Councillor Fournier, go ahead, please.
It's a minor issue, but the town of Aurora resolution regarding cannabis retail applications. This is something that I think I've heard mentioned in Mitchell as well. People saying that we have too many weed stores, and Seaforth Council obviously decided not to have any at all. But in this particular letter from the town of Aurora mentioning that they have 14, I believe, cannabis stores in their community of 64,000 people. It just sort of stuns me that they don't seem to realize the amount of black market money that's no longer going to criminals in their community. Like, I don't understand how this could possibly be a concern for any town council. Suddenly you have that amount of money getting taxed instead of going to the Hells Angels or whoever's currently running the marijuana market up there. That's insane.
Okay, so are you wishing to pull that and discuss that separately, or?
Specifically,
Okay.
yeah, because
So,
it is
well,
an issue. Yeah.
All right, so we'll remove 4.3 from the consent agenda, and with the remaining points on the consent agenda, can we? I need a motion to accept those as presented. Councillor Duck, seconder. Councillor Phelps, all in favor? Okay, thank you. So we'll circulate back to section 4.3. That's the town of Aurora. So what I will do is I'll just pull it up on my screen here. So the town of Aurora has passed a resolution that they voted in favor of retail cannabis in the town of Aurora in 2019, and they are seeking to, in essence, put a limit on the number of licenses that are issued by the province for cannabis retail in their community. And they're asking that the issuance of the licenses be handled in a way similar to the way that the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario deals with liquor licenses and such. So they have moved that at their council meeting. So go ahead, Councillor Fournier, with your point, please.
My point is that any measure that puts in place a tax-paying business that cuts into the profits of criminals is a measure that a sensible council should support. Even in our area, for example, although we have, I think it's 3 marijuana stores just here in the town of Mitchell, You can still buy plenty of black market marijuana if you choose to. It's cheaper, it's not necessarily as good, but it's very easy to access. The more stores you have competing with each other, the lower prices you have, the less black market sales you have going on, and the more taxpayer money we have being generated. I'm not entirely certain how I would phrase this as it applies to Mitchell, except that if somebody applies for another weed license or another weed store here in town, I'm going to be thoroughly in favor of it. Simply for the reason that if you work in a factory, if you work in a lot of types of organizations around here, you can just go to your cell phone and find as much black market marijuana as you want. And I'm not in favor of that, although I would have been some years ago.
Okay, so noted. Any other further discussion? Councillor Bink, do you have anything on this issue?
No, I do not. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski.
Okay, thank you. I guess your position's noted, Councillor Fournier. I guess the municipality really has no control over the issuance of these licenses. It's all through the government. So I guess there's really no further action to take at this time. So I think unless the clerk has some more information.
I would just receive it for information at this point as we pulled it from consent agenda.
Okay, so noted. Is there anything else we need to do with this before we move on, or? Motion to receive 4.3 Town of Aurora resolution regarding cannabis retail applications as information. Councillor Foster, seconder. Councillor Fournier, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5 on our agenda, and that's delegations. In particular, community grants presentations. We have a total of, I believe, 8 altogether. And the first, do you have anything, Clerk Hobson, on this?
Thank you, Chair. I would just add that tonight's just an information gathering session. Council's not making a decision tonight. They're just here to gather information and ask questions if they so wish to do so. We're hoping about 5 minutes or so for each group to run through. There's a button on the receiver that says talk. You can see a little red light will come on. That means you're live. Please proceed. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Dan. So our first presentation comes from the Association of Mitchell Minor Sports, Jordan Skunderwood. Welcome, Jordan.
The desk is height adjustable. Also, good. All right. So we applied for the grant from the town. The contribution to the community Mitchell Minor Sports has the purpose of minor sports and member sporting organizations in Mitchell is to provide wholesome experience for youth coaches and managers and league officials. We've had 850 children registered across the sports in the last year. The structure is an umbrella organization or association with respective sporting organizations, minor hockey, ringette, baseball, fastball, and soccer. The association provides following service for member organization: insurance for directors, liability, and property, registration and subsidies to ensure youth that wish to play a local sport is able to do so regardless of economic status. Centralized team sponsorship and coordination, website training and administration, financial assistance as necessary, centralized corporation status, one registered corporation, and accounting and bookkeeping oversight. The funds that we request from West Perth is intended to contribute to organization costs, such as insurance, website maintenance, and licenses, and allow for family subsidies to ensure that sports are available to everyone. Is there any questions with regards to the application?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jordan. So, yeah, council, any questions? So you can stay at the podium there. We'll just See, are any questions from council, for, Jordan on his presentation? Councillor Bank, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, looks like we're good for now, Jordan. Thank you. Second presentation is the Broadhaven Chamber of Commerce, please.
Evening, Dean, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Dean, and Council. My name is Mary Rose Luigi Cronin, and I'm the President of Broadhaven Chamber of Commerce. I'm on behalf of Robert Benoist tonight, who unfortunately couldn't make it, but he was the gentleman who submitted our proposal, or for the proposal. In the last number of years, the council and the municipality has been generous, giving us $3,500 towards snow blowing and lawn care for the Broadhaven Community Center. And I was thinking deeper. This past summer, I believe all of you as councillors had an opportunity to come and see our venue. What you saw was a prime venue, wheelchair accessible, landscape perfect. We do, as a very, very small volunteer organization, and unfortunately our numbers are getting smaller, that we really have to struggle and work to be able to maintain that. I think when Robert submitted that letter, what he failed to maybe think about was it wasn't just the snow removal and the cost of the lawn mowing, that thing. There's a lot of others ongoing things behind the scene that are not prevalent. In every spring, those lawns are rolled with volunteers, their equipment, their fuel. The woods are all maintained, wood chips, everything is taken away. When you came that day to see us, we had just finished landscaping. All the mulch had been brought by personal vehicles and things. Here again, it's the cost of wear and tear on the vehicles and fuel. And because we requested $3,500, we will accept it. But I'm just thinking in the future, because of the rising cost of fuel, the rising cost of materials and things like that, if maybe we can, maybe at this time or in the future, request a higher number just because of the rapid increase of everything that's required to maintain our facility. We do fundraising. It becomes more and more difficult every year, less and less volunteers. And basically, it's like every other organization, we struggle to survive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary Rose, for your presentation and supplementary information. Any questions from council? Don't see anything. Nicholas, do you have anything? Councilor
No,
Bink?
yeah,
Okay.
no, thank you. I couldn't get mute done fast enough. Sorry.
Okay, so I guess you mentioned, Mary Rose, you mentioned a higher, like the initial request was $3,500.
Correct.
And you're suggesting that that number should be
Probably
larger?
larger, closer to 4, just because I think when Robert calculated the cost of the fuel, and he was considering, as in the past, the maintenance of the lawns and the snow removal. But also there's a lot of behind the scenes things that weren't really taken into consideration. And I'm kind of requesting up to $4,000 if that's possible.
So what are your wishes, council? We have the option of making an amendment to this submission to change the number. Mary Rose has suggested a maximum of 4,000 instead of 3,500 as was originally submitted. Is there anyone that wishes to move to support that amendment from 3,000 to 4,000? Councillor Duck, you so move. Yep. Microphone, please.
My apologies, just 3,500 to 4,000, right? It's only $500 additional?
It'll be $500 additional, correct?
Yeah, I would move that.
Okay, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Harold, discussion.
I'll just clarify that we're just accepting the request to amend the request. We're not approving the request at this note, just
Okay.
Yeah, all the numbers submitted tonight are requests, and then these requests go forward into the budget process for 2024, which will be early in the new year.
Great. Thank you.
So I need, I've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? No, seeing none, I'll call the vote. Those in favor of the amendment as presented from changing the amount from 3,500 to 4,000, all in favor? Show of hands. To opposed? Carried, okay. So that amendment has been passed, and thanks, Mary Rose, for your presentation. Thank you. Third group, Fullerton Centennial Park Board, Bruce Skinner, please. Welcome, Bruce.
Red button's already on, so good to go. So our park board in Fullerton there, we oversee the minor ball program. And I'll keep it brief. Any possible grant money we could receive would help us out, would go toward equipment, balls, bats, catcher's equipment, first aid kits for the ball bags for each team. Our operating budget last year, insurance was over $3,000. Umpiring for the years over $3,000. Just a couple examples, but any possible grant money would be welcome and would go toward just the day-to-day expenses of running the minor ball program. Amen.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Bruce from council? Councilor Bink, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. One more time. Any questions? Seeing none? Okay, we're good. Thanks, Bruce. Okay, next up is a presentation from Knox Presbyterian Church. Reverend Mark Fraser, please. Welcome, Reverend Fraser. The floor is yours.
Thank you, members of council. After COVID, my congregation set out to reopen to the community and find out the needs of the community. One of the things that we struggled with, though, was we were not accessible to those with mobility issues. And so we set out to, under the guidance of the chief building official, to become accessible to people with wheelchairs and mobility issues. We're setting to put a bathroom in, and we have done this, which has allowed us to accept community groups with members who cannot get in and utilize the facilities because, well, the facilities weren't accessible. And so we have reached out and through this endeavor, and we've gotten several addiction services to use our facilities. We also have other community groups who come in. The Optimist, I believe, is coming in a couple weeks for a Santa Claus event because we are accessible. We are also host donation meal service for seniors, again, with members from the community that come in with mobility issues. And so we would ask for support to pay for the bathroom that we've installed. We step out in faith to allow the community to come in and find a home in our wonderful church building, which has been here for a few years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Fraser. Any questions from council at all? Councilor Fournier, go ahead, please.
Sort of a question for the clerk through yourself, Deputy Mayor. And no disrespect to you whatsoever. Didn't we get a request from another community church here last year regarding snow clearing on the sidewalks so that they could run community programs through their church as well? And as I recall, it was something around $5,000. We denied that request. It just seems that there's a bit of a similarity between the two, and we already turned down one of them, but perhaps I'm mistaken in my memory.
Well, so noted, Councillor Fournier. That question probably should be reserved for when we have the actual budget deliberations. I think right now, I'll just, at this time, if there's any questions to Reverend Fraser about the request, the details of his request, we'll discuss those, but your questions is noted, and we could take that into consideration when we deliberate further. Is there anything else, Clerk Hobson, that you want to add to that? Or?
It is a simple answer. The request you're speaking of wasn't through this process. It was just a separate letter requested of council.
Okay, Councillor Bank, did you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, I think we're good. Reverend Fraser, thank you,
Thank you,
for your
Council.
presentation. We appreciate it. Next is Mitchell District Agricultural Society, Janet Horn.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Janet Van Horn is our public secretary. My name is Spencer Dunsmore. I am one of our vice presidents. We have asked for $2,500 plus the use of the arena for our fair as a general fair sponsorship. Just some notes of this past year's fair. We had attendance of over 4,500 people over the 3 days. That is not including volunteers or people under age of 13. So we can roughly estimate another 4,000 to 5,000 attendance over the 3 days. We had sponsorship of over $40,000 brought in this year, which has been a trend over the past couple of years. Cost of our fair tends to run from $100,000 to $110,000, and income of each fair is $110,000 to $120,000. This money will obviously go towards help support all the events that we host at the fair and bring on another great community event for the public.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Any questions for Spencer from council? Going once, twice. Councillor Duck.
Just wanted clarity more so than anything. The 8,000 to 10,000, is that including the cost of the rink, or would that be just additionally as well?
So the $8,000 to $10,000 that is listed on there is for a separate project. And after conversation with Darcy, he had said that was going to be split out to do with Rex money. We're looking at upgrading the lights on the track. So there was discussion that it will just go under the recreation money because it is part of the grounds and not solely our property.
You're good, Ryan? Okay. Councillor Bank, did you have anything for Spencer?
No, thank you, Dean.
Councillor Foster, go ahead.
You have to amend the motion then? Or the information or whatever, because it's different than what a piece of paper says.
I don't think at this time we need to. We're gonna further work with the group to clarify, and we'll work back with all the groups to clarify amounts. As long as they're not requesting to go up, which I have taken they're not. And as well as we mentioned, it's a third year through this program, so some of our key community partners and user groups, we're certainly working with them in the process of what requests belong in the grant process and what doesn't. So that what was spoke of with the capital side of things from the lights, and as well as the sponsorship side of things, we largely take care of through our marketing and communications budget as well from the municipality standpoint. So we'll clean that up internally.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anything else? No, seeing nothing else. That's good. Thanks, Spencer. Next, we have Mitchell District High School. Wendy Hoffmeyer, please. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the Student Services Secretary at Mitchell District High School, and we've asked for a grant for some money for food. We've had a greater increase in food being accessed by the students. It's close to double from last year, and we're only in November. Families are struggling with the cost of food, and the children are noticing this. We're noticing some kids come to school without breakfast, some come without breakfast or lunch, and they're taking extra snacks to try to fill up for that lunchtime period. We also have a breakfast program running. We're servicing approximately 50 students a day, and sometimes as high as 75 a day in our breakfast program. As we all know, groceries have risen considerably. We applied for the President's Choice Grant to support our food program. Last year we received 10,000 from them, but this year they had a date of June 15th to June 30th, but they closed it on June 20th without any warning. So when we applied, they considered it too late. We've also reached out to the Masons, the Optimist Club, and the Rotary Club, and the Lions Club. All of those groups have gone to take our request to their meetings, and we haven't heard anything from them yet. We've noticed that when children have full bellies, they have much less behavior, and their learning is much better. We're a big believer at MDHS of community caring for community. It's our building block that we work on with the kids. So we're really hoping that we can show them that our community cares to give us food to help them through tough times.
All right, thank you, Wendy. And your request is up to an amount of $10,000. Okay, thank you. Any questions from council on Wendy's presentation? Councillor Deck, go ahead, please.
Thanks for your presentation, Wendy. That 10,000, would that basically cover the cost for the school year?
No, it was nearly 11,000 from last year. And this year we're already we figure by January we'll be at our 10,000. So we're going to be probably double it now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other questions for Wendy? Councillor Vink, any questions?
No, thank you, Dean.
All right. That's good, Wendy. Thank you for your presentation. Next is Opal. Mary Sanders, please. Is she here? Don't see anyone, so I'll read it out loud here for council and the public. Opal has requested grant funding for their operating costs, such as mobility bus passes for group members, craft supplies, and so forth. They are a previous recipient of the community grant, and the amount requested is $500. Clerk Hobson, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that request?
I do not.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council on that submission? Councillor Vink, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Dean.
Okay, very good. We will move on to the final request, and that is from the St. Columban Soccer Club. Sandy Baker, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm here to request some funding from the municipality for St. Columban Soccer. We last summer had over 600 registrations with St. Columban Soccer, with about half of those coming from West Perth. We are looking to do some significant maintenance to our main field that we have, as well as some of our smaller fields. Specifically, we're looking to improve the grass and the turf that we have, because we did have to do a lot of drainage work in this past summer. And so we are looking to get the grass back up to where it was. And we also are hoping to put in some new benches for the teams and the referees on our main field that we have. We compete against mostly teams from the London area. So we are trying to make sure that our fields are, welcoming and up to the quality that everyone within in our league would be used to.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Any questions from council for St. Columban Soccer Club? Councillor Bank, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Thank you, Dean.
Okay, very good, Sandy. Thank you very much for your presentation. So, that concludes, the community grants presentations. Once again, I want to thank all of the organizations and the presenters for coming forward this evening and sharing your information with us. And, we will consider these submissions, during our budget deliberations for 2024. And as Clerk Hobson has pointed out, any clarifications or fine tuning of the details, his department will be in contact with your groups to do that. So thanks again. All right. Moving on to section 6 under reports. We have nothing for the planning department this evening. Nothing from the chief building official. So we move to 6.3, the fire chief. 6.3.1 memorandum of understanding, tiered medical response with the Perth County Paramedic Service. And we welcome Fire Chief Bill Hunter. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Excuse me, Deputy Mayor and Council. Tonight's report is in regard to the memorandum of understanding with the County of Perth for provision of tiered medical response. Just some background on it. The agreement is to be reviewed each term of council by all of the agencies, fire and paramedics, and we just completed that. The MOU outlines our responsibilities as far as well as the emergency medical services responsibilities in how we respond. One thing to make very clear to council is there's no change in the level of service that council has previously established, and there's also no cost to this MOU. One of the key points in the MOU that should reduce responses that have created additional no service calls for the fire department is that if an ambulance is located in the Mitchell ambulance station, we will not get requested to assist. That we have the same travel time as they do, so it doesn't make any sense. And the last thing would be, as far as Perth County paramedics, we just wanted to clarify some of the language on when fire requests a standby, which is having an ambulance come out to a fire scene. The protocols there, we're going to try and do some co-training between the two organizations. And the last one is we've expanded a bit on the supply of medical equipment that we can get from Perth County paramedics to replenish what we use, and there's no cost to the municipality on that either. And I'll gladly answer any questions.
Thanks. Thanks, Chief Hunter. Council, any questions for Chief Hunter on that presentation as received? No, seeing none. Anything from you, Councillor Bank?
No, thank you, Dean.
All right, so we have a recommendation before us. I'll read it out. That the Council of the Municipality of West Perth authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the memorandum of understanding with Perth County Paramedic Services in regards to tiered medical response in the West Perth Fire Department response area. So I'm looking for someone to move that, or Clerk Hobson, you had something?
Can we just make a friendly amendment to this for clarity that it's actually the deputy mayor in this case?
Okay. So noted. Okay, so with that amendment, I'm looking for someone to make a motion. Councillor Duck, seconder, Councillor Rose. Any discussion? First call, second call, final call. All right, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Hunter. Moving on, nothing from the head librarian nor the operations manager. So section 6.6 under recreation Facilities and Parks Manager, we have Darcy Cook, who will make a presentation on Recreation Parks and Trails Master Plan results. Go ahead, Darcy. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. The report you have before you is the report of the Rec Master Plan and Trails Master Plan. We did go to procurement. We did go about 2 months open, so there was lots of time for bidders to review and look over the documents. Closed it in October. Clerk Hobson and myself opened the bids and scored them. The scoring is on the report. There was some areas that we scored them on. Monteith Brown scored the highest, and their amount was $98,248.75, which the budget was $100,000. So I will gladly take any questions.
All right, thanks, Darcy. Any questions from council on this report? Second call. Councillor Vink, anything?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski, were they able, Darcy, to meet all of the deliverables that they had outlined, that we had outlined in their proposal?
Yes, all three were able to meet all the deliverables. It was just more in the scoring of the how they were going to deliver them is what the result came from.
And will we get, if I may, Dean, will we be able to have a copy of their proposed plan at some time coming to council to see how they plan to implement that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a rough outline, but once awarded, I can really put timelines and really work through with the successful candidate.
Anything further, Councillor Vink?
No, thank you.
Okay, couple of questions that I had, Darcy. So you mentioned timelines. Are you in a position to give a general outline of the timeline as it stands right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So all three, their finishing timeline was in the month of August. I believe Monteith Brown was middle of August, middle to late August. So I think that's great. I think they plan to start in early January. So we'll be able to get the winter sports, get the summer sports, and then get the results in time for budget of 2025. So and all of them were generally on the exact same timeline. So I think that's a very good timeline for us to work with.
Okay, and one supplementary question. The submission of the RFP, staff was satisfied in the level of experience provided by the proposed candidate?
Yes, we were very satisfied with actually all three. But the suggested candidate, not only with having experience with working them in our last master plan, they also have a lot of experience and a lot of local experience. We did check references and they came back very well.
Okay, thanks, Darcy. So I see no further questions, so I will read out the recommendation presented before us, that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth award the West Perth Recreation, Parks and Trails Master Plan to Monteith Brown Planning in the amount of $98,248.75 plus HST, and that the council authorize the deputy mayor and the clerk to sign all necessary documents. I look for a mover for that. Councillor Rose, seconder. Councillor Phelps. Okay, discussion. Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Darcy. All right, moving on to 6.7, under treasure, we don't have anything tonight. So 6.8, clerk Dan Hobson. First item is 6.81, West Perth Emergency Management Program. Go ahead, Dan, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm actually going to defer this to Rick Fraser, our CAMC from County Perth.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council. Thank you for having me. As Dan said, pardon me, I am the CMC for Perth County. So for context, the mandate of this position is the county and the member municipalities' emergency management programs. By legislation, all municipalities are required to have a program, which includes a bunch of different things, the plan, training, outlining of duties and responsibilities, et cetera. So from a county perspective, I'm the steward of that program for the county. It does not include the city of Stratford, nor the town of St. Mary's, though we work very closely with those two teams. So as far as we're concerned, the 5 groups that in the county and the 4 municipalities are part of the program. The purpose of this report for you guys today is to outline the new emergency response program, or the emergency response plan, sorry, that we have developed for the county and the lower tiers. It's a pretty significant step in our efforts. It took a lot of work to get here. So again, for background, because we all have to have an emergency response plan, an emergency response program, as a group, what we do is we get together and review the program annually, actually a couple times every year. And one of the pieces was the emergency response plan. In 2022, the county, in addition to town of St. Mary's, City of Stratford, and the lower tiers in the county, underwent a modernization review project, which is essentially done with modernization funds from the provincial government. And what a third-party company did was came in and reviewed the program in its entirety. All of the work that has been done, all the documents, all of the plans, all the training programs, and they offered a host of recommendations. A report was presented to County Council in January of 2020. So what we do as a team, as an emergency management program, is we took that document and started chipping away at the measurable and achievable things we could. That document produced was a lot of recommendations, a lot of observations, but really it boiled down to 4 main ones, as you can see on the screen and in the report. 2 of which I'll touch on because they're more significant. The 2 that I'll just sort of gloss over very quickly was the establishment of basically a cloud-based storage system for all of us to put documents on to access at a moment's notice. Unlike some people think, emergency management doesn't happen between the hours of 8 or Monday to Friday. There are plenty of times we're all at home, December 2022, for example, needing access to documents, needing access to plans, to phone numbers, to procedures. So we developed an online platform that we all had access to. That was very simply done. The second was the framework of how we do our program, and that being having a CEMC for the county who is responsible for the municipalities. And we are already doing that, so we didn't focus too hard on that. The 2 significant pieces they are correlated, so I'll touch on those. The first being training. The document did speak to various levels of training across the county and across the teams. And for a response perspective, that's never a good thing. We were not on the same page. So previous renditions of the program went a different path than the province's incident engine system, the IMS. Pardon me. So this year's seen a very strong tilt towards training in the province's IMS, or incident management system. It's a system the province outlines or it provides to all the municipalities. They provide it for free. One of the added bonuses, I am a trainer for the province's programs, so I'm able to train the municipalities, and I have done so for the past 2 or 3 months. Done a lot of training for a lot of municipalities, all of them actually. All the municipalities have been trained. About 95% of the staff on the various teams have been trained up. That's a significant number because there's a lot of time involved. So a lot of recognition to the various control groups and municipalities who took the time to take that training. It's time intensive, I can assure you. So they all went through that pretty well. And then that leads into the emergency response plan in general. So we had emergency response plans. Municipalities are required by legislation to have an emergency response plan. The report did highlight that plans, for the most part, were drastically out of date. The most recent plan was around 2018. Now, that's not to say it's not useful. It's just not as operational as it could or should have been. So one of the first steps we undertook, and I, as the CEMC who started in actually late 2022, was revamping that plan in its entirety. It also coincided with the starting of a new minister of emergency management, who is very aggressive with his viewpoints and his stances on emergency response planning, which is very refreshing because the province is not known to be that aggressive. His philosophy was, which was sort of in line with what we were thinking, what I was thinking when I started this process, was there are 444 municipalities, 444 different emergency response plans, all need to be updated and maintained, many of which are not. So he and the province are a proponent of what I've termed a motherhood plan. So one plan for the county that is applicable to all of the lower tiers and all of the groups, because of what it does, it outlines a framework. The positions are outlined, the framework of the response is all outlined. And then we get into the weeds when we go to municipal specific appendices. And those are confidential documents that aren't for public consumption, that would include things like contact list, how do we activate the team after hours, any special or significant hazards within a municipality that need to be looked at or recognized. So what we'll have is one document, which is for public facing, that's what we're here about today. And then the other half of that document is just internal use only. That's not for public consumption. So I'm here before you today. That plan is attached to the document. It's quite lengthy, I grant you. But we're looking to get that adopted. It is adopted by bylaw, which we'll be looking at later today. One of the big pieces of this plan, this wasn't done just by me. I do need to recognize the effort of the county, or sorry, municipalities. There was a lot of coordination, a lot of work done by the teams. So again, I do want to recognize that. Happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Questions from council? Okay, I'll start with first Councillor Fournier and then followed by Councillor Foster.
Just a really simple question, please. In 6.1, it says signed declaration of emergency by the head of council should be sent to the following in the case of an emergency. And it says that the public through the media with the assistance of the emergency information officer would be informed of this. With situations like most of our small town newspapers closing down, how are we dealing with that? The newspaper being the sort of standard for information distribution. What are your side plans for that?
So the way the province words that is, it's not misleading, but it does lead you to believe that we have to go to all of the resources and all the channels to put that out there. Simply put, what we would do is utilize the public municipality's website and or the county's website to put that message out. And I'm not a website person, so I'm learning from them. They then take that message and it gets amplified on the various social media networks that advises the public to the degree we can. It would end up in the print side of things, but with the print cycles being 12 to 24 hours, it's going to be in there a little later. So we would rely upon the internet. We would also rely upon the various radio channels and radio networks who we could also tap into as well. Similar to what we did with the Significant Weather Guide, which was released last week. That went through social media, and then it's gone through print this past few days as well. Similar format. Thank you.
Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
When all of the paperwork's cloud-based, does the township still have a paper copy somewhere in case we lose power or internet services?
So yeah, I mean, I may look young, but I'm old school. We do have some copies. In fact, in the EOC, which is in the fire hall next door, in a cabinet we have sort of occupied some space in fire department. We do have all the documentation, all the forms that could be required at any given time. So we have access to cloud-based, which is all fillable PDF. So we could do it from home. So if you think from a COVID perspective, all the provincial documents that we're required to submit post-emergency could be done at home on fillable PDFs that I've created. Having said that, because I realize that we do have sketchy power issues from time to time, and or we just can't get here, there are backups for sure. Absolutely. And I have lots of backups. Not very environmentally.
Okay, Councillor Vink, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you, Dean.
All right, is there anything that staff might wish to add at this time? Clerk Hobson or Fire Chief Hunter? Oh, okay. Thanks, Rick, for your presentation. I know through presentations and training at County Council, this is quite an intense program, and I was quite impressed with the organization of the whole plan and the whole chain of command. And I was also taken aback by the number of alternates staff members that are required throughout the different parts of that chain of command. So it's quite a project to undertake. So we appreciate the work of yourself and rest of the county to set that up and administer that on the behalf of the citizens of West Perth. Okay, if there's no further questions, then we do have a recommendation here that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve the West Perth Emergency Management Plan, the ERP, and that Council adopt the Emergency Management Program and Emergency Response Plan. So we have a mover. Oh, Councillor Fournier, you have a question?
Right, it's just, again, it's a very simple question. When I was looking at your Perth County emergency levels matrix, on level 1, it has active threat from person or persons. And the first thing that jumped to mind was that situation out in, was it New Brunswick or Nova Scotia? And I know down here you do also have acts of terrorism, but it seems to me that active threat from person or persons could harm an awful lot of people before it actually got turned into acts of terrorism. Do you have a quick step from, let's not go through all the other steps, this is not just active threat from person, we're going all the way to level 3 red alert and do something?
So that's a great question, because sometimes the lines are blurred between the two. We would rely heavily upon the OPP for this one. It's a lot of intel that goes behind the scenes to get us to that lone attacker or small group to full-blown what they class as terrorism. In many cases, they could also class the small groups as terrorism after the fact. So initially, our focus, our main concern is get the program or get the team in place when it's safe to do so, and start looking at sort of life-saving priorities, the safety of the community, the health and safety of our responders, get that in check first, and we'll worry about classifying it by was quote unquote classifying it once we get the safety of everybody in check first. And that would all come from, in that specific case, would be coming from the likes of OPP, the INSET team with RCMP, and those sort of organizations. It's not a clear line when it gets to that, sadly. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I'll circle back to the recommendation. We'd have a recommendation, so I'm looking for a mover to that recommendation, please. Councillor O'Donnell, so moves. Seconder, Councillor Chessel. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thanks, Rick.
Very much.
Safe travels. Have a good night. All right, item 6.8.2, council meeting schedule. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So before council tonight, we have some housekeeping amendments to our 2023 council meeting schedule. We're looking to add November 27th as a special and adjust December 11th to a special, as well as add December 18th. I'll say at a high level, it's our hope that that December 18th meeting might not happen, or might be a very quick meeting. Needless to say, we're also bringing forward our 2024 council meeting schedule for some direction. As always, council can take whatever option they want. We've brought forward our traditional option, which is option 2, which is the 1st and 3rd of Monday. Again, staff are going to try their hand with the option 1 of the 2nd and 4th Monday. For the reasons outlined, we feel it makes a lot of sense to stagger with North Perth, as that's who we split county planning services with. And I will say, shamed in the hallways if I don't portray a earlier start time to council at council's discretion tonight, if I don't ask for one. But we've stuck our recommendation there. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan? I guess regarding the first of all, the amendment to the 2023 council meeting schedule as presented in the agenda. Are there any questions on that part? Councillor Duck.
The North Perth council meets the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of each Monday. Do they not do any planning stuff on the 2nd? And that's why I was.
Sorry, I'm kind of dealing with it part A and part B. I'm dealing first with the amendment to 2023. I'll get to 2024 first, but is there anything that questions on the 2023 part? Councillor Vink, did you have any question?
No, I don't. Thanks, Dean.
Okay, and as Dan alluded to, the purpose for the special meetings on November 27th and December 11th are to deal with operational budget and capital budget items for 2024. Okay, so no further discussion on that. So now I will turn to the deliberation of the 2024 meeting schedule, and Councillor Duck, go ahead with your question.
I think I'd just like to first maybe start off by saying I'd like to keep it the way it is. It works well for my schedule. The question, I guess, being the confliction, does North Perth not do any planning issues on the second Monday of the month, and that's why it's a conflict, or is it just every meeting that they would continue doing it?
I can't commit to understanding the inner workings of North Perth's schedule. By staggering it, it's our opinion that we can certainly manage it better with planning to have planning staff attend both. But there's deadlines, there's legislative deadlines, things do happen.
Any further questions? Councillor Harold, go ahead, please.
Not really a question as much as it is just a comment. I'm kind of in agreement with Councillor Duck. I prefer to leave things the way they are. We've been doing this. Some of us have been doing it longer than others, but regardless, we've all set up our schedules to try and be available the first and third Mondays, and with a 7 o'clock start time, and it's hard to just flip that out. So I prefer to leave it the way it is.
Councillor Bink, did you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any preference for option 1 or option 2. Either are okay with me.
I'll maybe I'll go around the table then. Councillor Rose, anything?
I would like to keep it the way it is.
All right, Councillor Foster.
I enjoy the 7 o'clock start time so Dan can get a little more shame in the hallways. But I don't care which Monday we meet on.
Okay, Councillor Fournier.
I think for the sake of our planners, our staff, we should certainly consider moving it to a different day, so that they're not quite so rushed.
Councillor Duck.
I guess I have another question. Has there been any complaints or issues arise from the planning department that prompted this suggestion, or we're just doing this out of the goodness of our heart? And we asked maybe North Perth if they'd consider moving them or anything like that also?
If North Perth's already meeting 3 times, so I'm not sure approaching them. It's definitely something internally from a staff standpoint. We know it can be difficult to manage. Council's certainly seen it where we've had to bring in other managers of planning or other people that don't necessarily present to council. We're happy to carry forward as is. It was just something we wanted to highlight to council that we think there's a legitimate reason to do it.
Okay, Councillor Phelps, your thoughts, please.
Option 1 or 2 works for me, so.
All right, Councillor Harold, you've mentioned status quo. Councillor Chessel, what are your thoughts, please?
Either option works for me.
Either, okay, and Councillor O'Donnell.
Yeah, I'm good with either way as well.
Okay, thanks. And Councillor Bank, did I ask you already?
You did, yes.
Okay, all right, so go ahead, Councillor Duck.
I was just gonna make a motion that we go with option 2 then, if I could do that.
Well, I was going to weigh in on behalf of myself and Mayor McKenzie. Look at it right here. Option 1 would have been more favorable for either of us on account of the county council scheduling on the first and third Thursday. So I guess in the case of myself and the mayor, we would have 2 sets of agenda to read for the preceding week. But everyone else has voiced their position on the situation. So Councillor Duck, you wanted to make a motion. What was that?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we go with option 2 personally. It's easier for my schedule with kids and everything that I've got planned and going right now, that we keep it a status quo. Obviously, when I signed up to do this, I knew it was first, third Monday of the month. And I think we discussed that last year this time too. So that's just how I feel in my opinion. And I would move option 2.
Okay, and with that option 2, first and third Thursday, now I'm getting backwards. First and third Mondays of the month the start time is 7 PM, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd be fine with 7. I mean, 7:15 or 7:30 works better for the majority. I'd be okay with that. I don't, well, earlier would not work better for me. But 7 or 7:30, I would say would be just fine. 7 o'clock, unless anyone else has got anything to say.
So
Yeah,
which,
7 o'clock.
so which is it, 7 o'clock?
7 PM Eastern Standard Time, third Monday.
It's your motion, so we have to nail this, down and be precise. So Counselor Duck has moved that option 1. Sorry, no, I'm getting backwards again. Option 2, first and third Monday of the month, start time 7 PM. So that is the option on the floor. I'm looking for a seconder for that motion. Counselor Harold. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Second call. Counselor Denk.
No further. Thank you.
Okay. Third and final call. All right. Call the vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, get your hands up nice and high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? Counselor Bink, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, then the motion is carried. All right. So that's 6.82, and hopefully the tongue twisters are over for the evening. And we'll move on to item 6.8.3, the Murray McIntosh Drain, Section 78 requests. Clerk Hobson, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Chair, I just think, we just gotta back up for a second.
Oh,
and get
sorry,
the,
did I overlook something? Oh,
the amendment to
the amended 2023. Oh, my mistake. Yes, as Clerk Hobson's pointed out, a motion to accept the recommendation that the council of the municipality of West Perth amend the 2023 council meeting schedule to add the following meeting dates: November 27th, 2023 special council meeting, December 11th, 2023 special council meeting, and December 18th, 2023 regular council meeting. So I'm looking for a mover on that. Councillor Rose, seconder. Councillor Fournier, any discussion? Last call. Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Now we move on to 6.83, Clerk Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. For council tonight, we just have a petition for a major improvement to the Murray McIntosh Drain. It's in the Fullerton Ward, and we're looking for a recommendation from council to accept it, as well as start with the appointment of Dietrich Engineering. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan on this? No. Councillor Bink, you're okay?
No, yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So, recommendation that the Council of Municipality of West Perth proceed with the request for drain major improvement to the Murray McIntosh Drain, and that council, pursuant to the Drainage Act and subject to any objection from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, appoint Dietrich Engineering Limited as drainage engineer on a date 30 days from the notice to the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority for the examination of the drainage works and to proceed with the requirements of the proposed improvement under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. Looking for someone to move that. Councillor Rose, seconder. Councillor Phelps. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we move to 6.9. Nothing under the Chief Administrative Officer for this evening. Section 7, correspondence. Don't believe we've received anything. So we move to Section 8, council reports. The first is 8.1, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority 2024 draft budget. Just give me a moment here while I refresh my screen. Okay, so, the topic of the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, draft budget, I brought this before council on two separate occasions, at, previous meetings in October. And I think what sums it up quite well are the, first couple of pages, in this, submission. Insofar as the drivers behind the levy increase, Upper Thames staff has produced that information to show the applicable regulations that are behind the changes and which are driving the levy increase. They outline the deliverables that are required by the province, and they've assigned the forecasted budget impact in dollars, and they have outlined the changes required in full-time employment for 2024. Tabulating that information, Upper Thames Conservation Authority staff are looking at increasing the staffing level by 9 full-time employees for 2024. The overall budget impact has a value assigned of $1,502,800. The main provincial regulations that are driving this are Ontario Regulation 686/21. That deals with operational and asset management requirements for water and erosion control infrastructure, of which has 3 major sites: Wildwood, Pittock Dam in Woodstock, and Fanshawe Dam in London, plus several smaller structures, including our structure here in Mitchell, as well as a smaller one in Fullerton Conservation Area. Bill 23 is a second piece of legislation, More Homes Built Faster Act, and Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act. And the third piece of important legislation that has impact here is Section 28, Conservation Authorities Act. There was one question, I think it was Councillor Rose asked, beyond 2024, if the requirement for the 9 full-time employees was going to be upheld. And at that time, I didn't give a definitive answer, but having since had a board meeting, staff indicated that it would be necessary to carry on the 9 full-time employees beyond 2024. The reason being that not only do different management plans have to be developed and mapping systems have to be updated, but the fact that the board, because of Bill 23 and Bill 109, the board, and because of the duties under Section 28, the staff feel that the number of planning applications that will come in will be so numerous that in order to meet the provincial timelines assigned to handling the applications, that they will need the staff to handle the volume of the workload. The consequence of not meeting the timelines will be that the developer proponents will be entitled to receive a refund on their development fees, and the developer pays the development fees to the municipality. So that's the predicament that that would be in potentially happen if these applications aren't handled quickly enough. So Councillor Rose, you have a question?
Well, that's one way to kind of strong arm us to agree with it, if nothing else. You hang that over our head. So far, they're able to, are they able to handle it in a timely fashion before this extra bill, which was the reason for hiring 9. Now, once we hire them, now we got to keep them, because if you don't keep them, you won't get your money. So that's kind of the gist of it, right?
That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, not only is it a question of handling the applications, but getting a larger number of applications than there are now, but getting them through that time window, that narrow time window, that's the crux of the issue. And it's been discussed at, between the board and the staff about how to make refinements to that process to improve the efficiency as much as possible. Like, we're still having those discussions and trying to find out what those efficiencies could look like, what those improved processes could look like.
So are they being handled in a timely manner up to this point? Or has there been some slowing down?
For the most part, like, we get the board at Upper Thames gets a monthly report, and it will be highlighted on the different applications that come in, and there's a column that will indicate whether the submission's is it on time or is it late, and there will be comments as to why it's late. Off the top of my head, I would say 85–90% of the submissions, if not a higher percentage, are handled on time. Where the ones that are late or are behind usually have some sort of exceptional circumstances that are impacting the timeliness of how the submission is being handled. Go ahead.
So is safe to assume, I guess, that they're predicting that we are going to get a lot busier, so that those 9 extra people can handle the extra work that's coming in, that they think will be coming in, correct?
Yeah, that's based on their best guess. And if you might recall, the Watson report was shared with council through Perth County Council. Like, Perth County alone, the population is supposed to grow from the current population of about 40,000 now to around 60,000 25–30 years from now. Just an example for Perth County, but London being the biggest member municipality of Upper Thames, their growth is projected to be exponential, like, especially with greater emphasis on housing and interior urban development, infilling and that sort of thing, and along like the forks of the Thames and sensitive areas like that. So that's where the major thrust for our attention will be put towards, is the urban development in London, but there will also be similar development pressures outside of London as well. Councillor Foster, go ahead.
If they believe most of the increased costs are gonna come from London growing, how come London isn't gonna have exponential increases in what they need to pay then going forward, opposed to punishing?
So that's a good question, and they will. Like, when you look at the like on the screen now, that's the operating and capital for water control structures. You'll see that London, like category 1 special benefits, like they will be paying the lion's share of the capital, but they will also be paying the lion's share of the operating, because their value assessment, it's all driven by value assessment. So being as they have the largest stake in the value assessment across the watershed, their share will also, like, they're looking at, believe it's $1 million, like extra levy, just on the operations side, let alone the capital side, just generally speaking. So it will never be a case of West Perth paying for the development applications that are going through for London. Go ahead.
How many of those planning staff do they have currently? Or whatever they need to hire of that level of staff?
The number escapes me right now, but I would have to go back to the org chart and come up with that the organization chart for the Conservation Authority. I'd have to go back and ask, I can find it on the chart, or I can ask staff how many planners they have exactly. Get back to you. But it's more than one or two. I believe Tracy Annett, the general manager for Upper Thames Conservation Authority, will be coming to council in the new year to make her budget presentation. So there'll be another opportunity to ask more questions about the budget at that time. And I noticed it was brought to my attention, there's some confusion, a little bit of confusion about the numbers presented in this documentation. You have to be a little bit mindful of when you're looking at these tables and numbers, it kind of gets you bouncing around from one page to the other. They're reporting on one page, just be mindful of when they're reporting operating costs and capital costs. They're two separate items. Capital costs are typically for capital items in your area, such as the Mitchell Dam or the Fullerton Dam. And operating costs, the capital costs are laid out kind of in line items, but the operating costs are not laid out in line items, so it gets a little bit confusing when you're trying to make all the numbers add up. So I know the conservation authorities have been told from the province to delineate all of their costs into category 1, category 2, and category 3 streams. So it's no different than Wendy's department, where she's reworking the cost tracking for different departments in the municipality. The Upper Thames is having to do the same thing. So they're still trying to get some of the finer details of the reporting refined in that respect. So are there any more questions on this before we move on? Councillor Foster.
This is an issue that all conservation authorities will be dealing with going forward, right? So
Correct.
where do they plan on finding so many planners in such short notice?
That question has been, through this council, I've raised that question. Through a previous discussion, I've raised that question to the board, through the board to the staff. So they're confident that they will find the planners, but they are aware that they are aware of the situation, and they haven't expressed any concern at this point, but it's on the radar to keep an eye on that for the future. Oh, if there's nothing else, that's all I had for the Upper Thames 2024 draft budget report. Our next board meeting is the last Tuesday of this month, and I will keep this council apprised of any developments on the budget front and other significant issues. So that's all I had for this report. So we'll move on to 8.2, and Councillor Steve Harold, Oswald Bayfield Conservation Authority, proposed 2024 budget. Floor is yours, Steve.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski. Everybody's had a chance to see the numbers in their package. The Sauble Bayfield Conservation Authority has an overall proposed budget of 2.7, and West Perth's portion of that is 3.05. A lot of the points that Deputy Mayor Trentowski made do reflect what all the conservation authorities are going through, but not in the same size and scope. Upper Thames have a lot of projects and things going on that Sauble Bayfield and Maitland Valley would not also, and which is part of the reason why you see the numbers that are so much different. It also has to do with the number of structures they've got, the size of them, the condition of them. You know, you cannot compare one authority to the other. I'm sure Upper Thames has done a lot of work to get to the point where they're at on their budget. But anyway, the Asaba Bayfield one is there for anyone to view. The general manager, Brian Horner, has offered either himself or a staff member to come to council and go over the budget items. And I mentioned it to CAO Bordas, and he was going to have that happen at a further date. So I would say if you have any questions, save them for that day, or I can ask ahead of time and get them in preparation for that if you wish.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Harold. Any questions for Councillor Harold on his report? Councillor Vink, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Dean.
Okay, perhaps if you're out in the foothills, Nicholas, if you could find maybe a gold nugget or something.
Yeah, sure. I'll jump on that one tomorrow morning, first thing, bright and early.
For some of these proposed levy increases, that would be great, or maybe go a little further north to the Klondike. I don't know. Okay, thanks, Councillor Harold. So, yeah, so we move to 8.3. So we have Councillor Vink reporting on the 2024 West Perth salary and benefit budget update. And we'll note to the clerk that Councillor Duck, due to his conflict declaration of a pecuniary interest, is leaving the council chambers at this time. So go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Sorry, Chair, I'll just add Councillor Phelps. Has declared as well.
All right. Councillor Phelps has also declared a pecuniary interest, and he has vacated the council chambers as well. So we will proceed then. Councillor Vink, go ahead with your presentation, please.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Trentowski. At our last council meeting, you'll recall that I presented the executive committee meeting minutes and presentation in a closed session at our council meeting. So I presented the Ward and Upton Grove 2023 compensation and pay equity review to council. At our last council meeting, we rose and report then coming out of a closed session. So we now have two recommendations that the executive committee is recommending to a council, that we would like to approve these two recommendations at council tonight. So I would like to move, Deputy Mayor Trentowski, that the Council of Municipality of West Perth approve the recommendations as per the Ward and Upton Grove 2023 compensation and pay equity review report dated October 23, 2023, and that we direct the CAO to implement both the 2024 cost of living increase of 5.63% and the Ward and Upton Grove compensation and pay equity review report to municipal staff effective on the pay period number 2 of 2024 in January of next year. So I'll move that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Vink. You've made the motion to move that, so we record that as such. Is there a seconder? Councillor Harold, you second the motion. All right, open the floor to discussion. Any discussion? No, I guess all I can.
We had, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. We had a wholesome discussion in a closed session where it needs to be, and then we rose and report, and this is the recommendation coming out of that. So.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. And I guess I was going to offer comments in a similar vein that it's been thoroughly discussed, and what the recommendation brought before us, it's been well thought out, mindful of the financial pressures that exist in today's economy, but also how shall I say, mindful of the the pressures on retaining experienced and trained staff. Those are ever present in the workforce, whether it's municipal workforce or other sorts of private enterprise. It's important to retain quality staff and retain that training and knowledge base that's been built up in your organization over the years. And we have a good solid base of quality people, quality staff dedicated to the workplace, but also dedicated to West Perth and the community, and that will serve us very well in the future. So, okay, so we've had a mover and a seconder. Is there any more discussion before I call the vote? Seeing none, I will call the vote. I'll read out recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve the recommendation as per the Ward and Upper Grove 2023 Compensation and Pay Equity Review report dated October 23rd, 2023, and that Council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to implement the 2024 cost of living allowance increases of 5.63% and the Ward and Upper Grove 2023 compensation and pay equity review report to municipal staff effective as per 2024 pay period number 2 on January 7th, 2024. So we have had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you. And then the final recommendation to close out section 8 of council reports is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth accept the council reports as information. Mover, please, Murray, or Councillor Rose. Second, Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so before we move into section 9, we'll await the return of Councillors Duck and Phelps. Okay, so we will move on to section 9 bylaws, and before us we have a recommendation that the following bylaws be passed. Bylaw 63-2023 being a bylaw to establish and require payment of various fees and charges for the municipality of West Perth. 9.2 is bylaw 67-2023, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 72-2019 and all amending bylaws, and to adopt an emergency management program and an emergency response plan, and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Recommendation that the Council of Municipality of West Perth give first and second reading to bylaw 67-2023 this 20th day of November 2023, and further that the Council of the Municipality of West, actually I'm going to back up, so we'll do that first recommendation first. Mover, who moves that? Councillor Harold, seconder, Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So then the recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth give third and final reading to bylaw 63-23 and 67-2023 this 20th day of November 2023. A mover for that, please. Councillor Foster, seconder, Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, so section 10, announcements, upcoming events, quite a list here. So tomorrow night, November 21st, coffee with council for the Fullerton Ward with Councillors Harold and Councillor Foster. That's being held at the Black Donnelly's Brewing Company. And what's the start time for that event again? I have it on my phone here. Yeah, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Very good, thank you. Following that, Wednesday, November 22nd, Stratford Social Services Housing Symposium. That's being held at the Festival Theater. It's a full day event with 2 guest speakers and a panel discussion on current status of housing matters here in Ontario. November 27th, as we had discussed earlier and approved, is our special council meeting at 7 p.m. December 1st, Mitchell Santa Claus Parade. December 2nd, Moncton Santa Claus Parade. And December 4th is the regular council meeting for West Perth. And December 8th will feature the Coffee with Council, this time with our featuring our 3 Mitchell Ward councillors, and that will be held at Tim Hortons. And I believe that's an 8:30 start in the morning on that day, if I'm not mistaken. 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. So, do any councillors have any other further announcements they'd like to add to the list? Councillor Duck.
Not an announcement. I just wanted to confirm we are planning to put a parade float in for the fair, or sorry, the parade, correct?
Dan, what's the latest on that front, please?
We are, yep, we are working on that. We've got a trailer and a truck, and we'll be getting the decoration plan and dates sorted.
Okay, so staff will provide an update on the event as we draw closer to the date. It's the days are getting closer already here, so it'll be December 1st before we know it. Anything else on announcements before we move ahead? Councillor Bank, anything?
No, thank you, Dean.
Okay, notice of motion. Is there any notices of motion pending from councillors? Seeing none, okay. Item 12, other business. Don't see anything, all right. There is no closed session this evening. So then item 14 would be a confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation that bylaw 68/2023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time this 20th day of November 2023. I just want to check with the clerk, our 2 previous councillors. Do they not have to step out for this, or what's the requirement there?
I think they can stay.
Okay, so a recommendation, looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Recommendation that the bylaw 668/2023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the municipality of West Perth be read a 3rd time and finally passed this 20th day of November 2023. Mover, please. Councillor Phelps, second. Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? That's carried. And item 15, motion to adjourn at 8:35 p.m. Councillor Rose, Councillor Duck, those in favor? That's carried, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and cooperation this evening. Have a good night.